a few days into the Black Ops 6 beta, and while a lot of things are pretty self-explanatory with the game so far, today I wanted to take a look at a few things that can probably still be beneficial to you perhaps, and I wish I knew that sooner type of thing. Drop your thoughts if you have any tips or anything you'd like to share that you think can be beneficial to anyone. Of course, I'd love to hear your insight, but drop a like if you enjoyed the video and make sure to subscribe for more Black Ops 6 coverage, along with other FPS content. I'd love to have you in the community. For now though, let's get into it. Firstly, let's talk about some of the gameplay things. We'll move into some discussion on settings a little bit later in the video, but firstly, gameplay. Probably one of the biggest things that affects gameplay that you may have heard by now is aim assist. It got nerfed here at this. Admittedly, I wanted to get this video up yesterday afternoon, but was incredibly short on time that it didn't happen, unfortunately. But if you hadn't been made aware just yet, aim assist within close proximity to an enemy has been nerfed to be almost non-existent. And honestly, I think this is kind of a solid compromise in the aim assist debate. I feel like when mouse and keyboard players had often mentioned their opinions on it, a lot of it came down to those close quarter situations where rotational aim assist would pull heavily in favor of those controller gunfights. Anything past 3 meters, I think it is, still has that aim assist pull, so it's only like in real close proximity, but a change no less that you might end up noticing where it's like, why did I lose that close quarters gunfight as you slid past somebody? You wouldn't get that same rotational aim assist effect now within the beta as you would in, say, Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone. Let me know your thoughts on this one. Honestly, I have no skin in this debate, but I'm curious to see what people think of this. Next, earned XP within Black Ops 6 multiplayer does also transfer 1-to-1 to what you see within the Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone sort of COD HQ unified experience as well. So while you may have hit level 20 on day one, unlike what we see with the current level caps within Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone, since Modern Warfare 2 reestablished that hard cap, that XP that you get for playing beyond that point when you hit that max level, it isn't going to waste. Yes, we are going to see the level cap increase to 30 next week, but for the time being, you're not getting anything in Black Ops 6 now, but you are still gaining playtime and XP towards your Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone rank, plus the current Battle Pass. So that's one thing that I think is really nice. It allows you to progress that Battle Pass, even though you're not necessarily playing specifically for those type of things. You don't have to spend double the amount of time if you want to complete your Battle Pass, but also want to play the Black Ops 6 beta. This is different from what we had last year. I think the last time we saw this shared progression was in the Vanguard beta, where it also progressed to the Black Ops Cold War Season 5 Battle Pass, if I'm not mistaken. But if you're somebody who likes to earn things out of it, it does make playing a little bit more worthwhile. Plus, also those daily challenges don't go to waste. So on the surface, you are level capped, but you are still getting more stuff beyond that. Now talking XP more specifically, this time for weapon XP, it takes a little while to end up ranking up your weapons within the beta so far, right? Like if you want to try out every single weapon, chances are this weekend, or maybe by the end if you're a grinder, you might have all the weapons ranked up if you want to. But if you're somebody that plays a little more casually, you might not be able to experience all those weapons with all their attachments because you just haven't hit that max level. Next week, there's going to be an increased weapon XP yield rate across the board here. There was double XP for your rank overall on day one. Not sure if that's still active as of the time of this video going up, but now we're going to see some adjustments to the other side of the coin as well. Lawrence Menton, Associate Director at Treyarch, mentioned we'll be buffing weapon XP for weekend 2. The current weapon leveling speeds are slower than intended. So that's definitely nice to hear that this isn't what we're going to have at day one of launch. Like it's not going to take that long to rank up every single weapon that you have in the game, and we should see a hopefully more accurate representation of that within weekend 2. Beyond that, talking a little bit more about weapons, let's talk about weapons in general, then a little bit about some of the attachments. The GS45 is a weapon that if you haven't quite heard about this one, because it's a secondary, it's a pistol, well, it's a melt machine. If you guys thought the PDW was good, you're right, it's still really good. But the GS45, if you don't want to take any overkill wildcard, the GS45 for close quarters can absolutely get the job done. It has 2-shot potential, as crazy as that sounds, for a pistol with a decent fire rate and decent mobility. Like, it's not like a 50 GS or a Desert Eagle like that, where you have insane recoil, it's a bit heftier of a weapon, and the fire rate's pretty slow. It's actually not a bad choice here as a secondary, so try that one out. A little hidden gem, I think, right now. Next, reticles are weapon specific, but shared. One thing that I noticed in a notation blunder from a video the other day, I had mentioned that the weapon attachments of optics, while shared between all weapons of a class, i.e. all your reticles earned for rifles, are usable at level 1 for any other rifle. That doesn't transfer to SMGs or anything, but just in that specific class. While I mentioned that, I had mistakenly referenced that they were earnable by any weapon in that class, as that was the perceived messaging that I had remembered throughout the pre-reveal event back in June and the pre-multiplayer reveal briefing just a week ago. However, it appears I had either misunderstood, been mistaken in my notes, or something, because weapon optics are like Modern Warfare 2's unlock system, where if you want a specific red dot, you'll have to use a specific weapon. For example, I wanted the AccuSpot reflex optic for my XM4, but leveling past well where I needed to be with it, I still didn't have it, until I checked again and it said I needed to level my AK to 25, not the XM4 that I had been currently using. So that one is an embarrassing I wish I knew sooner, but perhaps this clarifies things for someone else. Talking reticles a little further, sniper reticles aren't entirely centered, it seems like, here at this. This is probably a bug, probably not by design intent, but it also may be why if you're sniping, you're trying to quickscope or something, your shots may feel a little off. It feels like it's back to almost that pre-Modern Warfare 3 adjustment in Season 2, I want to say, where they made that adjustment where you're aiming, when you aim down sight is where that's going to be, then the weapon sway kicks in, whereas right now it seems like the weapon sway is already in effect as you're scoping in, so it will end up taking you off. And honestly, even in some of the times where you hold your breath, it still seems to be a little off from that center point. So hoping to see that fixed out if that is something that is actually a bug. Maybe I'm just crazy and I'm not in tune with how snipers should work, but anyways, next, map specific stuff. The security lockdown on Skyline is another one that was one of those embarrassing moments where it took me a little too long to put together, where even though playing at COD Next, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. If you've experienced that point where the one hardpoint is locked down and there's only one funnel point on both sides of that room, that security lockdown is initiated by one interactable computer, though you also can do it from the ventilation system of the underground or hidden passage. Another thing on Skyline in particular, those doors are active world elements, so if you try to slide under one and it touches you while closing, well, you'll die. Also, not sure if you noticed, there's a hidden RCXD track on Skyline, reminiscent of the old ones we've seen back in the Black Ops 1 Nuketown, Black Ops 2 Nuketown, other sort of little hidden tracks like that that are only accessible by the RCXD, which is a pretty cool thing. You can take a stealthy route and take out an enemy by getting behind them, perhaps, without them even realizing that it was coming. And the final thing that we'll talk about in regards to gameplay in particular is that right now, there is a major issue with the report feature currently. Spam reporting will actually be something that is problematic if not fixed out, because you're seeing maybe some clips of actual legitimate world champion pros getting banned because they got mass reported by players on the other team. So just know that if you get a ban and you're not doing anything wrong, you're not crazy. I would imagine that a lot of these are being repealed relatively quick thereafter, but I've also seen it where people are like, wait, I got a temp ban that is now not letting me play for the rest of the weekend. So just be careful here, be aware of that, and that's more of a PSA than anything else. Now let's talk a little bit about settings here, some stuff that I think is absolutely imperative to know when it comes to this, but you might not really think about it too much here in regards to your gameplay experience, things that you might not know to look for even. Firstly, we talked about it yesterday in our tips to improve video. The auto tac sprint is not necessarily auto tac sprint in this game. It's not listed as such, and instead there's a few little more workarounds or like hoops you have to jump through. If your sprinting feels off to you, I was the same, man. Like, it was definitely a weird feeling, but auto tac sprint can be enabled by going to your controller and movement settings and activating sprint assist to be tactical sprint assist and setting the delay to 0. From there, you can go further to if you want to use tap to slide, tap to dive, hybrid, whatever the case in regards to your slide dive movement behavior, but you will absolutely notice that everything, I think, feels a lot more fluid, a lot more crisp when using that auto tac sprint, just not as the name auto tac sprint. Another thing that you should be aware of is on-demand texture streaming in Black Ops 6 is now mandatory. What that means is that the textures for your game, what makes up the composition of what you see decorating the map beyond its just core layout, that's now a streamed bit of data rather than previously it could have been locally installed. This means you'll end up having a bit more demand on your bandwidth, your connection, which for a lot of people may not be something that is an issue. Like if you have fiber internet or probably even a download speed likely above 50 megabits per second, you're probably fine with this. But for the areas with lower connectivity, it could be an issue. Limiting this option can be beneficial, but you may see a decrease in visual quality. But at the same time, playability I think is more important than the game looking pretty. To do this, you can go to your graphics settings in the quality tab and adjusting the on-demand texture streaming setting, set that to minimal. That limits the downloads to only what is necessary and essential to the game. Beyond that, if you want to go a step further, you can adjust it to the lowest setting of small and adjusting the download limits to 1 GB of data. This is all subjective, so perhaps you just want to adjust it a little bit, not as much as the full minimal offering, but you can play with those settings to see how it fits your connection, your bandwidth best, or your experience overall. It also may end up limiting some of the packet burst that you end up having in matches as well, which I think is certainly a benefit. And finally, visibility in the game is hit or miss depending on what platform you're on and what map you're playing on. Even for me, playing at 4K extreme quality, everything the highest settings that it can go, maps like Derelict, I still find incredibly hard to see some players at a distance sometimes. So for this, a way that Redditor Doll Caterpillar ended up finding was to adjust some of your HUD presets. This can be done by going to the interface category of your settings, going to the gameplay HUD, expanding that a little further, going from layouts to colors, and then you can end up going to the color filter down below, set that to filter 2, the color filter target to both, and then the world color intensity to 100. You might be able to end up experiencing a little bit of a difference here with this. And again, if that's not necessarily the perfect solution, there's a lot of stuff that you can customize in this section that does end up adjusting based off of subjective preference. So with that said, that's a few settings that I think are definitely beneficial to know. And I think that's going to wrap up a few things that, again, I wish I knew a little sooner. But let me know your thoughts down below. Again, is there anything that you would add to this list here that you think can be beneficial to other players, that you found yourself beneficial? Let me know your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 6 and other FPS content. I would love to have you in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.